Welcome back to the Smoke Pit. My name is Katie Torback, and our guest today is Dr. Sweeta Nila Devanath, a physician, attorney, and community leader who is running for Congress to bring a frontline perspective to Washington. After years of caring for patients and advocating for her community, she's now seeking to represent Virginia's second congressional district with a campaign focused on healthcare affordability, economic opportunity, and accountable leadership. We're excited to hear about her journey, what motivated her to run, and the issues she believes matters most. Dr. Devna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Katie. I am very excited to be here at the Smoke Pit. And yeah, just thanks for having me.
So we always start the same way before we dive into questions. We give you a chance to sell us. What's your elevator pitch that you give on the campaign trail? Let's hear it.
Of course. Well, unfortunately, sometimes I'm very long-winded as a doctor, but I've been trying my best. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Nila Devanath. I'm running for Virginia's second congressional district. I am a Hampton Roads native, so I grew up here in the district. Been here for about 40 years. My parents immigrated here from Bangladesh, escaping genocide, and that's the reason I got to be the first person in my family born on American soil with birthright citizenship. Yes, that's right. And I currently work as a doctor here, but I've had so many hats in my long career, short life. But I used to be an attorney about 10 years ago. I was a domestic violence lawyer. I also worked with immigrants who were crossing the border, mostly unaccompanied children. I also worked with tenants who were basically fighting their landlords to keep their housing. And I also did employment law as well. In that career, I also worked for the Department of Justice in the Antitrust Division, trying to break up healthcare monopolies in order to bring down prices for patients. I've worked for the Centers for Disease Control, protecting our waterways from waterborne diseases. And I've actually you know, helped with creation of and support of policy on the national level, including reproductive rights, health disparities work, and education and immigration. That was that career. And in my medical career, I've also worn a couple of different hats. Currently, I work as a community hospital doctor in the acute care setting. So I work in hospital wards, ICUs, emergency rooms, that kind of thing. But I've also worked for Planned Parenthood as an abortion provider. I also worked in primary care, basically serving uninsured communities. I've worked at the VA as well, serving our veteran population. So there's a lot of different things that I've done in my life. And right now, I think one of the most important things we can do is fight for working families. We are, as a country, are headed towards a sort of a cataclysm as I see it. We have billionaires, we have trillionaires now, right? We have these huge corporations that are buying up housing stock, that are buying our politicians, burning our planet, and also profiting off of genocide worldwide. And I think that's unconscionable. And I am here to fight against all of those things and also to support ideas that help with human dignity. So, universal health care, right? We right now are in a very piecemeal situation. Over 65, under 65, veteran, not veteran, kid. Everybody has some different type of health insurance, and that creates a lot of cracks. And when people fall through the cracks, they end up in the emergency room, and that's where I see them. And it's tough. It is tough, the things that I've seen, even in just the last year, the last couple of months. It shouldn't be this way. We also have an affordability crisis, gas prices, groceries, utilities. There are many different aspects to that, which I will definitely get into if we have time. I'm sure we do. But one of the things that I'm supporting most highly is a tax cut for working families. It's called the Working Americans Tax Cut Act, which I'll get into in a little bit. And then lastly, my biggest thing that I'm supporting is ending financial corruption in Congress. right? We have folks who are making millions, becoming multimillionaires when they go in there for just a couple of years. We've had that happen in our district as well. People who doubled or tripled their net worth in just a few years in Congress. And there's insider trading at that level. We have to ban stock trading in Congress. We have to reject corporate PACs. We have to reject APAC. I am not, I'm against the war in Iran. I'll just say that plain and simple. I think that we are sending our service members into harm's way for unclear reasons. And, luckily, we had some folks go out there from the Hampton Roads area. Luckily, they came back. But you never know what's going to happen, right? And especially in an active war zone. We're also supplying military aid and arms to a country that is committing genocide. The military and government of Israel right now is literally has killed tens of thousands of children. That's plain and simple. And I wish I could say that there were more people in my current race that could name what is going on, but people won't even talk about it. And as somebody who comes from a family who escaped genocide, it's important to say that, right? You cannot fight evil if you cannot name it. So I'm here running as the progressive candidate in District 2. I have been endorsed by Tidewater DSA, and I am very, very appreciative of their support. And we got 2 weeks till our primary election. So August 4th is the primary date. Early voting has already started. And we actually have our first early voting weekend day tomorrow, which is amazing, which I'll get into like how the system is like definitely set up against working families because other than that, you only could vote Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Very interesting. Yeah, but yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I know that was a little bit long, but I hope that that answers some questions, and I'm here to answer all of them.
Okay.
I like it, and I'm gonna let Tim take it away because we have some questions for you.
Yep.
Awesome.
We have a lot of questions for you, Neela. Um, so I'm my wife is a registered nurse at a community health clinic in Worcester, Massachusetts. So she works with a lot of immigrant families and such. So very tied into some of the background you talked about. But so I hear about healthcare all day, every day, at the dinner table, at the tea table this afternoon. So we're going to start just in that area. You support universal health care and Medicare for all. So how would you pay for it, and what taxes, if any, would increase for middle class Americans?
So the goal with so first of all, Medicare for thank you for that question, Tim. Medicare for all and universal health care. The reason I support that is because of human dignity, right? What I'm seeing in the hospital system right now is, you know, folks who are losing their lives for preventable diseases. And actually, interestingly enough, in my district, we have about 12 to 15% of our population are active duty and veterans. And I used to work for the VA where I saw 100% veterans. I'm now in the community hospital, but still every other patient I see is a veteran or active duty. And, I thought about that. I was like, why am I seeing so many folks who, we supposedly have a great healthcare system for? And they're saying, hey, I couldn't get an appointment at the VA for like 9 months. I couldn't get a specialist, and this is why I'm going into the community to find this care. One of my most common patients is, and it's so terrible to say this, but it's actually, we have a veteran who might have diabetes and they have a foot infection. They couldn't get care for 6 to 9 months. And to the point that the infection spread to their foot, to their leg, and we've been treating it with antibiotics for, weeks and nothing's happening. So I have to call a surgeon to cut off a leg. And every day that I'm in the hospital, Every week it's probably like a toe, every month it's like half foot, and every couple months it's a leg. And I was sitting there at my desk looking at this picture the surgeon sent me of a leg floating on a table, right? And it's not uncommon to me, but I'm thinking, why are we practicing on the domestic side wartime medicine, right? Why are we amputating people's limbs in what we're supposed to say is this time of peace and prosperity at home, right? It's because people are not getting the access to care that they need. That is why I support universal health care. It's not going to happen overnight. It, might take 10 years, it might take 20 years, we don't know. But what we do need is people in Congress who are actually going to pursue it. It's a very bold move, but if we never go all the way, you're never going to, if you never start, you're never going to get there. The way
Yeah,
that it's going to be funded,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sure, no problem. Yeah, the way that I see it's going to be funded is through taxes on billionaires and corporations and also multimillionaires. So, many of you, you may have been familiar with some of the proposals that are out there right now. We have Bernie Sanders, who has a tax on billionaires, and we have Elizabeth Warren's tax on basically multimillionaires. Her proposal generates about $6 trillion, which would actually help to fund Medicare for all. So I don't see taxes rising for people in the middle class. What I do see is that billionaires and corporations and multimillionaires need to pay their fair share in taxes.
We see that, right, of like people paying their fair share. But I do want to make a point because you brought up community care, right? And Carl uses community care. I refuse to use community care. So I do want to ask you a question about VA care and community
Yeah.
care specifically, right? So a lot of us have seen the staffing shortages over the last year. Not only the cuts to the crisis line, but cuts to actual like medical staffing of
Yeah.
VA.
Hmm.
So do you support increasing VA staffing through direct federal hiring, expanding community care, or a combination of both?
I would say, for our veteran population, I think that expanding staffing in the VA itself is probably the way to go. You can do both as well, but here's the issue is right now we have a shortage across the board, community and in the VA, right? Of doctors, of nurses. It is getting even harder now to fill that shortage because of policies put in by the Trump administration. We talk about student loans, right? He has declared that, for instance, nurses are not professionals, right? Think about that. Try to do a nurse's job for an hour, like it is really, really tough. And because he said that they're not professionals, they're now not eligible for certain loans to go to nursing school. He's also trying to destroy the Department of Education. That's creating a staffing shortage as well. I think if we spent more funding towards the VA system itself, that is probably what's needed because you can get so, it's basically, the VA in some ways is like a small mini universal healthcare system for our veterans, right? Instead of the entire community. And I think that's what should be funded first because, you know, our veterans, you have to put your lives on the line for the freedom of this country, and you should get the care that you need when you need it, no questions asked. But so I would either do the VA system alone, or I would do both. But right now, there's just not enough resources, and we're creating bottlenecks, like educational and staffing bottlenecks, with the current policies that we have. So there's not going to be enough for both unless we reverse those.
Thank you for that answer.
Of course.
Sorry, my the mute button again. I fight with that thing all the time. So my question for you is: you talked about resources and the limited amount of resources, right? And right now, because of the way that the pipelines are working, those resources are going to get slimmer and slimmer and slimmer with attrition as we go through the process. So my question for you is: how would your proposals impact rural hospitals, which are already struggling as it is? With regards to funding and
Mhm.
staffing. So, how would your policies impact that?
Yeah. So one of the reasons I actually started running was because of our current congressperson, Jennifer Kagan's. She voted for the big ugly bill, which I know many of us call it that. And the reason I started running because of that was because she cut Medicaid, right? She voted for the cuts to Medicaid, voted to increase insurance premiums, and Medicaid is what funds hospitals. It's also what funds medical training, by the way. I'm not sure if many people know that, but it also funds medical training. And what we need to do is we need to reverse those cuts to Medicaid because our rural hospitals are suffering. You know, there's actually one in district here, Southampton, in Southampton County, that is considering essentially closing its doors because of these cuts. I ran a clinic as an associate medical director just last year for uninsured patients. And because of the cuts to Medicaid, that position is now disappeared. It's gone. They didn't have the funding for it. We need to reverse the cuts to Medicaid so that we can prop up hospitals in rural locations. And we need to put more funding towards that, right? If we have the revenue from these taxes on billionaires, trillionaires, right? And also multimillionaires, we will have the revenue to support these hospitals in rural locations as well.
So, my follow up question to that is when it comes to the funding, I see where you're going with that, but that funding hasn't been uh, created or established
True.
yet because it's
Yes.
got to get through Congress, right?
Yep.
The follow up question that I have is specifically with regards to resources, right? We talked about the fact that the training pipeline is essentially closed at this point. So, what would you do in order to ensure that both the VA gets the staffing that it needs in order to ensure that the veterans get the care that they deserve and ensure that the rural hospitals have the staffing that they need in order to
Yeah.
provide the care to their population?
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. And I think, you know, on thinking about that, I feel like having more community support, you know, maybe we have to focus on the VA because especially of, you know, the responsibilities that you took on, right, to fight for our freedoms. At the same time, I think supporting the community makes sense, more community clinics. So in our district, about 50% of our veterans and active duty families switch over to Medicaid in order to give themselves more options in the community. So, in just thinking about it and thinking about what you're saying too, I think actually community support or a little bit of both would make the most sense.
So I wanted to build off of that and kind of circle back to our original question, and that is, and especially given your perspective as a practicing physician, and I appreciate being the husband of a nurse, what you had to say about nurses because they're like NCOs in the military. They are the backbone of healthcare,
Yes, they are.
in my mind. But as a practicing physician, what are the biggest structural problems in healthcare that legislation, not just additional funding, could possibly solve that have been neglected, ignored, or co-opted by, in my mind, I'm the progressive on this thing. They've been co-opted by the capitalist approach to healthcare in this country.
Yeah. So I think that we have a crisis in the healthcare system in terms of how things are structured in most hospitals. Like today, we don't have things run by doctors and nurses themselves, right? We have these business administrators and these CEOs, and I'm no joke. I mean, even in the system that I'm in, like there were 27 bosses above me. And I think that's really unnecessary when it comes to just caring for the patients themselves. We need to get out of these healthcare monopolies. So one of the things that, I was fighting for as an attorney was I was fighting to break up these large healthcare monopolies that are driving prices up for patients, right? In every state, there's probably around 2 to 3 large hospital systems. And, you know, I could name them, but I don't think I'm legally allowed to right now. They put some mitts on me, but when you have just a few systems that are controlling the entire state, they get to set these prices, and that drives up costs for patients, right? That drives up insurance costs. And there's another part of the system that I think needs to be regulated pretty highly is when hospital systems have their own insurance programs, right? Because then it's like the right hand is paying the left hand, right? And you're right, you go around in this circle. And so everything is very contained, and it just creates more of that monopoly effect where you can set the prices you want, you can pay for the prices you want, and people really don't have any other options, right? I think if we had an option like Medicare for all or universal healthcare or even a public option, right? That could open up a marketplace where that would force these insurance companies and these big monopolies to compete with, essentially the government, right? Who's providing this public option. That's going to drive down prices for patients. That's going to drive down insurance premiums. And it's going to make hospital systems rethink this giant administrative burden that they put on it. Like half of my job, unfortunately, is paperwork. You go into a doctor's office, you see us like, hello? Oh, uh-huh. And then what is your thing, right? Like, that's terrible. That's not good bedside manner, right? Why are we having to be on a computer for half of this visit? It's because we have regulation on top of regulation on top of regulation. Another part of that system that I see as a huge problem is the way that people are trained, right? So Medicaid pays for, particularly I know from the physician side, Medicaid pays for physician training. And they only have a limited number of spots in the country. And I'm not sure if anybody knows this, but does anybody know what match day is? Have y'all heard what match day is? Yep, so y'all know. So match day, so I'll tell you, Carl. So basically, when you finish medical school, you apply to residency training programs. And you do some interviews, they do some interviews, they rank. And basically, you just open an envelope on match day, and it tells you where to go, right? And you've all experienced that in a different way, of course, and so it's a very similar feeling. And you go there, you don't really have a choice. If you don't go there, by the way, you've spent close to hundreds of thousands of dollars on your med school, and if you don't go, you're blacklisted. So then you can't get trained, and you can't use the degree that you just got that you spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on. Medicaid, by the way, like I said, only has certain number of residency spots around the country. So this is creating a bottleneck, right? Because hospitals don't want to pay outright to train medical professionals. They want Medicaid to pay for it, and they are essentially profiting off of the labor of medical trainees, which is unfortunate. There are folks who, when I was in residency, we were working over 100 hours a week for 50 weeks a year for 3 to 7 years. And I think it came out to something like $3 an hour is what we were making. Yeah, the conditions were terrible. And another part of medical reform, and I know I touched on a bunch of issues, but we are written out of labor laws specifically. So residents cannot create those units. They've actually tried and they've been successful, but initially, with this match system, which is a monopoly, they were written out of those. They could essentially have a monopoly for resident trainees. all of this creates a bottleneck in our healthcare system because then we have a provider shortage. We don't have enough doctors. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough specialists. And these are areas where we can actually create legislation to reform.
Yeah, before I turn over to John, we're going to morph into uh, foreign policy. But one of the things, my wife just recently underwent treatment at MD Anderson, and all her nurses were either from the Philippines or from India. And this is a structural issue
Mhm.
across the board where just our society, in my opinion, isn't investing in the right kind of jobs. Isn't investing in preparing the people coming out of school for the right kind of jobs, such as healthcare. We're focused on finance, and we're focused on the military side, just on spending as much money on weaponry as we can. So that really kind of aggravates me that we're so short-sighted that we have to go to other countries. And the nursing care she got was unbelievable. It was what I would call concierge medicine. The nurses who we did work with were outstanding, but we should be able to do that here in the United States. We shouldn't have to recruit from other countries constantly just to fill our nursing shortage. So,
Yep. No, and you're right. Huge shortage in healthcare. You know, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a technician, all over. We have, and that's, it's so funny because we have so many of our healthcare workers who are on these visas, who are, maybe they're visiting the country, they're working here. And one of the things I don't think that, our president realizes is that when he's making all of these changes to regulations, including, by the way, some that were on these visas, he could potentially destroy the healthcare supply that we have right now because it is, for better or for worse, it's very immigrant focused. And you're right, we do go to other countries to get healthcare and to get staffing for health for all of our hospitals and clinics. And if we actually put the funding that we're sending overseas to, you know, like I said, fund countries who are participating in genocide, and we actually spent that, billions of dollars here at home, we could actually live in a society where we're taking care of ourselves. But we're not doing that right now.
All right. All right. So we're going to shift gears a little bit. Nyla, Dr. Nyla. I'm going to call you Dr. Nyla.
It's Nila. It's
Mila.
Nila like the
Nila?
names.
Nila?
Yes, let me name. There you go.
Okay, Nila, sorry. Before we came on, I did ask how to say it, and they told me, and then I forgot immediately. So
Okay.
look at Tim, he's doing the head thing. But I did want to talk a little bit about foreign policy. But before we do, I think I want to make sure this section has a little bit of weight to it, because I think, as a lot of people know, yesterday there were another two casualties, two KIA killed in action in Jordan, actually. And then there's another service member who was listed as MIA, but really I think he or she is unidentified, which is typically what that means. So we're going to just do a quick 10-second moment of silence, and then I'm going to ask you a few questions about foreign policy. All right. All right. So we had a moment to think about that and reflect. So one of the things that with looking at some of your policies and some of the things the way you're framing your campaign, you've talked about ending endless wars. And just before I ask the question, I would have you note, if you include Tim, we have like 140 years of military service. I'm just kidding, Tim. I love you. So we have a lot of service here, though, right? We are from generations. We have veterans in our family that have gone to war. We've been going to war almost continuously since World War One. Really, we've just continued to do it. But for you, in your opinion, when is it acceptable to risk American lives and to put American children in war? What is the proper use of military force for the United States?
I think the proper use is, protecting American citizens. And I also think the proper use is when we know 100% why we're doing it, right? It's after, diplomacy has failed and that's the only option that's left. I don't think that sending our service members abroad to potentially be killed for questionable reasons is okay. I think we need to have Congress authorize war when it happens, not just be a unilateral decision by a very few number of people, because we're talking about, you know, tens of thousands of folks going abroad to potentially die.
Yeah.
Every single person in Hampton Roads knows or has somebody in their family who is in the military, has been in the military, friends, neighbors, um, you know, my patients, right? My mom worked for TRICARE for 30 years. She, it is such a part of the fabric of our lives. And when you are sending people abroad, you have to know why you're doing it. Right now, what's happening in Iran, it's not right, right? There were diplomatic interventions that were ongoing, and then all of a sudden, just like that, we decided, oh, nope, we're actually going to start using force and violence and sending our service members over there into that violence. We didn't have to do that. We don't have to do that. It doesn't serve American interests. In fact, I believe that we are really fighting a war on behalf of foreign interests and not American interests. I mean, look at the NDAA, right? That the House passed and the Senate blocked. With that provision in there that was going to give essentially unlimited military cooperation with a foreign military. Yep.
Yep.
What? Like, excuse me? That's our troops, right?
Yeah.
Why are we just sending them over to fight other people's wars? That's not benefiting any of us here, right? Like, our gas prices are going up. It's causing the economy to get worse. We're not spending any money on domestic programs like Tim was talking about that could actually help American citizens. And we're potentially killing family members and neighbors. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I think
not
that's a great way. Yeah, you're not going to get any disagreement out of me. I gave a speech at No Kings, specifically talking about foreign entanglements, right? Which is something
Mhm.
our founders very clearly did not agree with. So, thank you for that answer. And then to kind of follow up on that, one of the things I think you even just mentioned it there is, what are your feelings on congressional authority? I think what we've seen is a real retreat from allowing Congress to do its job on behalf of the people. And in our country, the people are the popular sovereign, right? It's
Mhm.
not supposed to be an executive led government when it comes to war and treaties and all of those things. So this is a two-parter. I'm going to ask that first. What is your feelings on congressional authority? What are you going to do to get it back where it belongs? And if elected, this is a yes or no, will you work towards and vote for the repeal of the authorization of use of military force, which essentially allows the executive branch to brand anybody a terrorist and go to war? And almost a lot of people on here have gone to war under AUMF,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of good big feelings about it. So, congressional authority and yes or no on AUMF.
Yes. So I'll answer the AUMF first. I would vote against that.
Yeah,
Just
thank you.
period. Because like I said, and this kind of goes to the congressional authority part, one person should not be able to make these types of decisions, or even a small group of people. It needs to be the country as a whole, which comes through our congressional representatives. Unfortunately, in Congress right now, we have representatives who are just falling into a line because of party, because they're scared of the person who is in the Oval Office right now. And that to me is cowardice.
Yeah.
It's just straight cowardice, right? We have to elect leaders who are going to stand up to tyranny. And right now, what we're seeing is tyranny. I know I'm probably using some extreme language, but that's really how I see it, right? Right. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Because it really is, because we are seeing these decisions being made. There's no discussion. There's no period of reflection. There's no debate. And then it's just done like that. And then people have to fall in line. And that's plain and simple. It's not okay.
Thank you. And then, so that was a couple of foreign policy. Who's up next? Who wants to? Thank you, Neil. I really appreciate those answers. Those were good answers, and I think you've caught the vibe of where a bunch of people that don't agree on everything agree. These are some of the things that veterans agree on. So,
I hear you.
I think
Carl.
up next, Carl is going to take us through domestic policy.
Yeah. So, Dr. Nila, I am probably the only panelist on this panel tonight that opposes one of your proposals with regards to domestic policy and the election reform process.
Yes.
And that is term limits. Now, I oppose it because I think that it is a very undemocratic process, and I think that we need to leave it up to the voters to determine who they want to be in office and represent them. And that by setting term limits, we're basically telling the voters, too bad, so sad, you don't get your way because everyone else around the country, don't want you to have the person that you want to represent you. So choose someone else. Why do you think that term limits are important, and why aren't there other options aside from term limits that could maybe achieve the same goals?
Gotcha. Carl, that is an excellent question. And first of all, I will say, I haven't heard that before, that, your perspective as well. So this is really challenging me in a certain way, and I'm really appreciative of that. I would say for term limits, I think it's important, and I'm coming from Virginia, right? Virginia, we actually do have term limits. We've always had term limits on our governor, right? So they can only run, they can't even run like basically consecutive. They can only run for 8 years. They can be in office for 8 years total. And what that does is it allows people to come into a space and have new ideas, new representation, and not be stuck in the same pattern. We have an issue in this country with politicians being bought, right? There are huge sums of money that are put into campaigns for Congress, for Senate, for all of the state houses and senates as well. And what that does is when you have an incumbent in there, it's almost impossible to get them out. Even if, by the way, they could be voting against the population themselves. I take our district, for instance. Jennifer Kiggins is an incumbent. She voted for the Big Beautiful Bill, which cut Medicaid, which made our health insurance premiums go up, right? She is supporting the war in Iran. She's representing a district where 50% of her veterans and active duties are on Medicaid. She herself is a veteran. She herself is a healthcare practitioner. She's a nurse practitioner. And she still voted that way. Yet it has been incredibly hard to unseat her because of these vast amounts of money. If there were term limits, that would be one way to allow new and fresh ideas to come in. But also, you're right, it has to be the will of the people. And I think right now, the tides are changing, right? We're seeing folks really wake up to what is going on and the voting decisions that she has made. I don't know if there are other ways to accomplish the same things as term limits, but I think because of the current way our system is set up with the amount of money and power, or really just money, period, in these elections, I think we have to have term limits to kind of break that cycle with a hard stop. The other thing about term limits is, which I'm for, which I don't know if it's actually on my website. We were just talking about this the other day, but I'm also for age limits, right? Yep, I'm for age limits. And here's the reason why. Some people say it might not be fair. I think that if the average, what is the average age of Congress right now? I think it's like 69 or something like that. Like, people who are not, we have a current, like in my generation, right? And the generations who are coming after me, we've grown up in an incredibly different economic situation than there was even 20 years ago. If you are not somebody who's experienced that and you're making these decisions, I think your decisions are going to be worse off because you don't have that experience of, what is the average age of home ownership in this country now? It's not in your 20s, it's not in your 30s, it's 40. It's 40. So like people are working for 20 years already before they even think about buying a house. The education system is crumbling, right? People are, I told you in the beginning, I have $525,000 of student loans. I've been a doctor for almost 10 years. I was an attorney before that. And I still have $525,000 of student loans, right? Like, it's not the same as it was. And I think that's why term limits and age limits matter is we need to have new people in. But it's so hard for young people to get into office nowadays because of this machine that has been built around incumbency. So I don't know if there are other solutions than term limits and age limits, but that is kind of why I support those right now.
So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I agree. I think that we shouldn't have representatives that are probably sitting in office longer than I have been alive, and that's the case right now. And we probably shouldn't have people dying in office, 7 this past term of old age. And so
It might be dead, but might not be.
Yeah, it's soon to be 8. But my follow up here again, it goes back to that whole democratic process, right? Is to me, when I hear people say, "Oh, we don't want to have someone who is old, who doesn't represent the population in office because they don't necessarily understand the challenges that are faced by today's generations," basically what we're saying is we don't trust the people to make the decision for themselves. And so that's like my main consternation with term limits and age limits is we have to trust the people. And you mentioned money in politics, and I agree with you. We need to pull money in politics out. So my question there for you is, with regards to money in politics, there are certain reforms that we could do to make those changes more permanent. Maybe try to pass an amendment to overturn the Citizens United ruling.
Yep, correct.
With regards to that, how would you tackle the money in politics issue, and how would that impact current senators and future senators and representatives?
So first, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
On the term limits? Because I love this. This is like a great learning opportunity and debate. So do you have a problem with the term limits on presidents or on, for instance, like Virginia's governor or anything like that?
Short answer, no. And it's a conflicting answer, right? Because it doesn't make sense. But the reason I say no is because of the fact that the president and the executive officers, they don't need to be lifetime sitting up there constantly type leaders. We need to keep that pool fresh because, as you see, the presidency tends to age a person rapidly. We watched Obama go from dark hair and like looking spry to ancient with gray hair and looking like he was ready for the retirement home after only 8 years. So that's kind of why I look at that from that perspective. But you're right to call that out because it is a conflict.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And well, I only ask that too because I think honestly being in Congress these days will probably age a person pretty rapidly given just everything that's going on. But I hear that. And then I think your question about campaign finances. So I am part of the group called End Citizens United. So I'm part of their Unrig Washington campaign, and I'm super proud to be a part of that campaign. And the reason that we need that is because corporations are not people, right? Corporations should not be able to give unlimited amounts of money and and funding to buy up politicians to vote in the way that they do. I come from this from a perspective of being a doctor. So about like 10 to 15 years ago, I mean, you may have seen like doctors and pharmaceutical companies, right? They would be giving out pens and like little notepads. And then, I mean, it got to the point like free, Bush tickets to Busch Gardens, amusement parks, hotel stays, like all that kind of stuff. And they did a study because the doctors were saying, oh no, I'm not affected by this. No, not me. They did a study, and the study showed that if they had all of those, those freebies and that funding, right, their prescribing patterns changed based on that. Maybe it was subconscious, but it still changed because human beings are just human beings, right? So how do we just take it over to the political realm? They made a law, by the way, for physicians now. You can't really even accept a gift that's over $10 without having it like recorded. So like I had a patient try to give me like a mug or something for Christmas, and I was like, I don't know, is it over $10? Like I don't know if I can accept this gift, but thank you. But we need to do the same thing in politics, right? We need to get corporate PAC money out of politics. I don't accept any of that on my campaign. I don't think anybody should. Yes, 100%. It's just dirty money. It's just dirty money that is going to affect the decisions you make. And the only people I want to be beholden to is the community. That's where I get my support. This also goes for APAC. For anything that's foreign interest PAC related, has to go. Like, we need to make regulations on that. No foreign interest PACs, no corporate PACs. We need to reverse Citizens United with legislation that reverses those effects. And as you say, for me, I'm for term limits. I am also, by the way, talking about money in politics, getting all facets of that out. We need to ban congressional stock trading for individual stocks, not just even for the congressperson, but for their immediate family. Yes, because here's the thing, it's like, we have had Congress people, I'm running in a primary, and I'm running against a former congressperson who, in just 4 years of being in Congress, doubled to tripled her net worth. Lifetime's net worth, by the way. Like, imagine you're working for 40 or 50 years, your entire lifetime, whatever you've built up. And in 4 years, it's like, whoop, double. Dang, I wish I could do that. It's like, no, well, we don't have the opportunity, right? Because they say, oh, well, I'm not going to be affected by the corporate PACs. I'm not going to do, there's no insider trading going on. Yes, there is. At that level of power, there just is. And they know things, even if it's like a committee does something and then it's public record afterwards, it's about timing, right? Stocks are about timing. And so if you know information a couple of hours, maybe in a day, maybe a week before somebody else does, you can make decisions that us as the public, we never could. If we even own stocks, by the way, because that is a privilege in and of itself to even have the extra income to do that.
That's what I was going to say is average Americans don't have stocks. I want to follow up on this, on term limits and everything, because I think it should also apply to the Supreme Court. What is your stance on that? Yes or no? I know Carl's cringing.
Listen, I hear you, and listen, I have gone back and forth on this in my own personal internal debate as well, right? I used to be an attorney, and I can see all kind of sides to it. I think at this point in our current political climate, things have become politicized beyond what we would have ever imagined. And I think we need term limits. I think we need term limits for the Supreme Court. I know you hate term limits, Carl, but I do believe. Listen, it's just so hard to fight these systems otherwise, right? We're going up against. You're going up against billionaires and trillionaires. I am not a millionaire. I am not a multimillionaire. I have a negative net worth. So I couldn't, and by the way, those people, working people, still need to be the ones in office, right? Because we can make the best decisions for ourselves. But if we have to go up against the corporate America, right? How can we when there's no hard stops? So that's why I'm for term limits in Congress. I'm for term limits with the Supreme Court. I think it creates a barrier to injustice, if that makes sense.
Thanks, Neela. We're getting near the end of our time, so I just have a couple of more questions. First one, your platform calls for abolishing ICE. What agency or structure would replace ICE's responsibilities for immigration enforcement, investigations, and combating human trafficking? Given your background, I know you've worked in this area before. You can't just pull the plug and say, okay, there's no more immigration enforcement. There does have to be a security angle to it. And so how do you do that?
Yeah, so, I think ICE should be abolished in that the current, the current iteration of ICE is folks that are not trained, right? They might have 2 weeks of training, sometimes at minimum. They don't know how to handle these cases with care and respect and dignity for, the people who are here in our communities, our neighbors and friends and families who are working very hard, and also American citizens as well, right? We've seen American citizens murdered at the hands of its own government. That's happened many times over in many ways, but just recently with ICE. We need to dissolve it in its current form. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily not going to exist in a different form later, but we need training for people that are going to work in ICE for extensive training, basically like a year or more before they get to handle some of these cases, right? I actually was one of the first people to lobby on the DREAM Act. One of the things that can replace that is actual pathways towards citizenship, right? The problem that we have right now is that there are so many people who are in the country who are working, they're paying taxes, they're here with their families, they might have been here for decades, but there's really not there's not a good way for them to become a citizen in a timely fashion, even though they have been paying taxes and been, essentially Americans for a long time. One of my friends actually his parents were also from Bangladesh. And just by the nature, happenstance, he happened not to be born here. And I was born here. And he did not know that. So he came here when he was 2. His parents never did his papers. And they, I think there might have been some literacy issues as well. When he was applying to college, he'd grown up here as an American, right? He never even went back to Bangladesh. And so he found out the hard way, oh, wow, I wasn't born here, but I've lived here since I was 2 years old and now I'm 18. What was the pathway to citizenship for him, right? That's why we need things like the DREAM Act. So, maybe you do serve in the military. Maybe you become... you help us in some of our underserved professions that we really need help domestically, right? Maybe you're a student. But these are all pathways that are dignified and that give people real options to become part of the country that they love. So that's what I would replace it with.
Okay, thanks. The last question I wanted to leave you with, and then I'm going to turn it over to one of your hopefully potential constituents, Allura, who recommended that we talk to you. But on election integrity, can you talk a little bit about that, given Trump's address this week? To me personally, it was a warning shot across the bow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Nothing more, and it's setting the tone for another January 6th.
Agree. So the question that I find is, do people trust, other people studying this, right? Because study after study from both sides, both sides of the aisle, conservatives, liberals as well, has shown that this issue of election fraud is minuscule. Like it does not happen at the rate and the way that the president is saying that it happens. But what he's doing is propaganda. It is fear mongering. He is trying to confuse people and make them believe that this is happening so that then they feel like they can't trust the regular electoral process. If you can't trust the electoral process, we don't have a process to have leaders in government. Do we even have a government, right? If you don't trust the people who got there and you're like, well, how did they get there? You might not want to follow the laws that they potentially make. You might want to execute those laws, right? It is a I mean, I'm just going to say it. It's just a mind fuck. Right? And I don't usually curse, but it is truly he's trying to psychologically break the American people. So with the SAVE Act, let's talk about the SAVE Act, right? It just kind of flows into that. This act primarily targets people of color and women, right? Who changes their name the most? Women, because of our societal structures. It doesn't have to be that way, but I did not change my last name, but many, many, many women do. And if I had a good friend of mine who lives in Virginia Beach, she's been divorced for like 40 years, okay? She had to go down, but by the way, the process in order to get this like ID or whatever, she had to go down to North Carolina, so she had to drive into another state, go to that, get her marriage certificate, then she had to drive to another place across the state, 4 hours away to get her divorce papers. And because all of this, I mean, it was so long ago, she was like, I don't keep records of this, like it happened. I got divorced and I had a beautiful life afterwards. I'm not like that amount, and she had a car, right? But what if you don't have a car? What if you don't have transport? What if you're working 3 jobs? You're not going to have time to go and do all this paperwork to then several months later get an ID, which by that time maybe the elections have already passed. Like, this is directly targeted towards the midterm elections. And yeah, it's horrible.
I agree. So the last bit, we want to turn it over to my good friend, Alora, who is a constituent that could potentially vote for you in your upcoming election. She is also a veteran and a member of our group, and she introduced you to us and asked for you to be on. So we want to give her the space to ask you anything or say anything about you. So,
Absolutely.
Alora.
Hi, Laura. Nice to see you. Oh, I think you're on mute.
You're muted.
Oh no, she's asking for help. Oh no, okay. she said help. Okay.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm used to using StreamYard and not Riverside, so forgive me. I think when we first started doing the smoke pit in the very, very beginning, we used to use StreamYard. So that's how long it's been since I've been on here. Hi, Dr. Nila. So I am so glad that you were able to come on and do this interview. I know you were probably sick of answering my questions, but I do I do have another question.
Yes.
One of the reasons why I felt like it was really important for you to get to come on a podcast like the Smoke Pit in particular is because this is a nonpartisan coalition of veterans who believe that what's currently happening in our political environment is unacceptable. But it does not mean that all of the veterans in this coalition see eye to eye on individual policy issues. I'm looking at you, Katie. Um, and so in Hampton Roads, you are going to have, especially in CD2, a panoply of veterans, many of whom may be like some of the veterans in this call who lean more conservative personally as voters. However, they see what's happening in our country right now as wrong. So why do you believe that it's important to run openly as a democratic socialist? And what would you say to veteran voters, to military voters and things like that, who are skeptical of someone running openly in this election as a democratic socialist?
Yeah. So first of all, Laura, I want to say thank you so much for introducing me to this wonderful group. And I don't know if anybody has seen, but Allura did ask me like many, many questions for, I don't know, was it like 3 or 4 hours? You like grilled me. So this is good. This is good. I love questions from Allura. My response to that is I'm not really afraid of labels, right? And I think this is something we might have talked about earlier too, but why run openly as a democratic socialist? I think that it's important to call things as they are. I think that it is important to show what values you stand for. And for anybody who leans conservative, because by the way, CD2 is a purple district, right? It's not just, some veterans might have some more conservative ideas. We have to win the voters over. And in this district, everybody in their family has Republicans and Democrats, right? So how would I win over those voters? It is really about the issues at the end of the day. You can call me what you want. You can say whatever you want to say. I don't care about none of that. What I care about are the policy points and the issues and the votes, right? I care about what do you actually support when it comes to healthcare? What do you actually support when it comes to foreign policy? What do you support when it comes to our energy crisis and climate change and data centers, right? And ICE, all of these issues that are going on that affect our district. Actually, even though there are a lot of national issues, our district is affected by national issues acutely. We have a ton of military, active duty, and veterans. We have a ton of federal workers. We are a coastline climate. We are in Virginia, which has the most data centers out of any state, right? We have in Hampton Roads, we're also a healthcare economy. Like the fourth largest employer in the state of Virginia is a hospital system, that is based in our district. So what I would say is I'm a person that focuses on the issues. I think it's important to run as an open democratic socialist because my values align with DSA, right? I am for working families. I'm for workers' rights. I am for bringing costs down for working families. I am against this vast gap and inequality that's being created economically, where we have trillionaires and billionaires and all of that. It is what is basically souring relationships between people, their government, and community. So yeah, I don't have any problem running as a DSA candidate because those are my values.
Laura, you're
Laura, I
muted.
think you're muted. You're there again.
Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have one more question, if it's okay with Tim. We good? Okay, cool. So this one, Hampton Roads is military heavy. It's military centered. Not only do we have so many military bases, we have one of the largest Navy bases in the world here, but a lot of the jobs and the opportunity for work here are acutely focused on supporting the military industrial complex in Hampton Roads. And if you are not, if you don't have the access or the education, or if you weren't in the military yourself, a lot of people don't have access to those jobs, and it leaves a lot of young people in the Hampton Roads area who are graduating from high school, graduating from college, having to leave the area to find decent paying jobs. And our current Congress member for CD2.
Oh no. We lost her.
Did you lose me?
Yes, we did lose you. You said our current Congress member for CD2, and then you left.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Our current Congress member for CD2, who is Jennifer Kiggins, has been really, really proud of the funding that she's been able to secure for the shipyards to, enhance the stuff that's going on for the Navy here. But she hasn't done much else for any other industry in Hampton Roads. And so what industries would you work to secure funding for Hampton Roads so that there's equity across the job market? So there are more opportunities for veterans getting out of the military and for young people who are graduating high school and college here to not have to leave home or to go to Northern Virginia to find a job.
Yeah, I think that is an excellent question, Laura, and I think my thought process is actually surrounding the climate. So, our planet is burning. Literally, we see the smog outside. I hope nobody stayed outside for too long today because it is quite unhealthy to be out there. We have a huge coastline, right? And we have plenty of opportunities for clean energy jobs. And if you are in CD2, you've seen the wind turbines, right, being brought back to shore, and they're like huge, they're giant. It's like kind of crazy. I didn't really realize like how big they were until they got back to shore. But that project was, I think it had been in process for like almost a decade, and it was going to bring like tens of thousands of jobs to the area. And it just got stopped by the Trump administration. And Jen Kiggins had no problem with it. I think she might have said something about it, but she really has not been an advocate in that area. So my focus would be on clean energy jobs, right? We have a coastline. We need a lot of help in terms of flood mitigation, right? Building up barriers. We need those wind turbines to go back up there. The other areas I would focus on is actually education. I think our teachers need to be fully funded. We need better opportunities for the education system here when we need to put more funding towards that. And then lastly is healthcare, right? We already have a pretty decent economy based on healthcare because of, the different groups that we have in place here. But I think it can be better, right? If we have the funding from Medicaid, if we reverse those cuts and put more funding towards this, we can actually build a system of community clinics where people can actually get care and have job opportunities. So those are the three areas: clean energy, education, and healthcare.
And the teaching one raises one more quick question for me. And if you don't have an answer for this, if this is the first time you've been asked, I understand. As it currently stands, in most states, schools are funded by local property taxes. And it creates disparities in education funding in low-income communities. But specifically, Hampton Roads has an issue, especially for Norfolk and Chesapeake, where we've got military bases taking up these large swaths of property taxable area. And there are some federal credits that come from the federal government to try and make up for that. It does not bridge the gap between the money that we are losing out on property taxes for our schools when it comes to education funding. So, and then on top of that, we have all of the universities who also don't pay property taxes here. And it's great to have the bases and have the universities, but it also has created very clear disparities between each city when it comes to school funding. Would you in some way be willing to support a universal like funding for schools that's based on the number of students and based on the ability of each student? So additional funding for students with disabilities, etc., instead of the current model that's based on property taxes alone.
Yes. So I don't think that your opportunities in life should be determined by where you were born, right? Zip codes, unfortunately, are one of the biggest predictors of success. Isn't that crazy? Your zip code. I think that the fact that we tie property taxes to the school system results directly in inequality. So if I had the opportunity to change that, that is exactly what I do. I do think per head, per student, essentially is how you should do it. It should be population based. And for, kids who need extra help, I can see additional funding to that. So my answer is yes.
Okay, that's all for me this time. It was really great to get to chat with you again, and I wish you the best of luck in what I know has been a very difficult campaign.
Listen, but we are rocking and rolling, and thank you, Laura. I really appreciate that. Hey, we got 2 weeks left, For those of you out there who are in CD2, which is Virginia Beach, parts of Chesapeake, Suffolk, Franklin, Smithfield, Windsor, Southampton County, and the Eastern Shore, huge district. But if anybody who lives in those areas, I want you to pay attention. A lot of people say in a general election, unfortunately, recently, they've been choosing between the lesser of two evils. You don't have to do that. Please, 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 please. I always ask, did you vote in the primary? This is a chance to choose a candidate that matches your values. You do not have to choose between the lesser of two evils. If you think that certain candidates are two sides of the same coin, I agree. And that's why I'm trying to be a whole different coin. I'm trying to be a dollar bill. I don't even know what I'm trying to be, okay? Please join our campaign. We have about 2 weeks left till this primary. We need door knockers. We need phone bankers. We need people to just be out there. But mostly it's canvassing. And we have a great crew. We actually had about 8 canvassers, which is a lot of canvassers going out into Virginia Beach today. We need more. We need to let people know that we exist. If you want to join my campaign, please do. You can find out more information at our website, which is nilaforcongress.com. So that's NILAFOR Congress.com. And you'll meet my team and we will connect you. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Last thing, because I know one of our watchers was wondering, are you Team Pete the Penguin or Team Jimothy the disabled raccoon?
Team Jimothy. Team Jimothy.
All right. We wish you the best of luck. Please visit Dr. Nila Devanath's website, donate to her, and uplift. And Allura, just as a closeout, I changed my party to Democrat so I could vote in my primary for our local DSA candidate. So you would be wildly surprised. But we
get Katie growing up.
all right. But Dr. Nila, we wish you the best of luck. You are welcome to hang out with us for the next hour. The next 45 minutes, we just bullshit and talk. We watch videos and talk shit. It's really up to you. And John,
what videos are we watching? Yeah,
you can.
I actually might have to go. My baby was screaming in the other room.
All right. Well, we wish you the best of luck, and we'll be watching your primary. today because we actually do watch the races, especially people who have come on and spoke to us, and we cheer you on. So we wish you the best of luck.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you. And seriously,
you.
if you have any more questions, please let me know. I love this. This is great. And Allura, you too. I know that we've talked for so many hours, but you're amazing. You're amazing.
I don't know if you
that.
know that you got caught on a hot mic at the end when you went to go talk to your husband.
When?
When I interviewed you at the hotel.
Oh,
So like
maybe.
we have
What
the
did I say?
recording
Tell
of
me. Oh my gosh.
you were just over my shit at that point.
I probably was, girl.
You were just tired
Listen, let me
and
tell
over
you-
my shit.
Let me tell
I'm
you.
gonna rein it
Allura had
so
me
we
in there.
I'm
for,
gonna rein it in
He had
so
me
that
in
we
there.
can move to our next segment.
Sorry.
I love you guys. But Dr. Nila, please, we will be watching you, and especially on primary night, we do watch those, and so we wish you the best of luck. And Allura, we hope you hang out for the next 45 minutes with us and talk shit.
Yeah, please. Talk shit.
I'm sitting in the parking lot at my gym in Virginia Beach. I need to go home and then I'll come back on.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
All right, Carl, do you want to take us away? Nope, you're mute.
Carl is on mute.
Mute,
I am going to fight that mic, that mute button. It should just unmute when I start talking. So I've got 2 videos for us tonight. One is, well, I guess they're both funny and they're both associated with the military. So without further ado, the first one I'm going to share is mean-spirited in a way, but focused on making fun of the branches. So here we go. Oh, thank God.
Hey guys, you want to throw on our rucks and go a little further?
No. Too bad. You guys want to go do leg day? Yeah, I'll just get my pre-workout quick. Yep, that's enough. I mean, you guys see, right?
Oh man, I didn't bring him today.
Yeah, but that's not water in your Camelback, right? Okay, yeah, give me a swig. See the woodpecker? Yeah. I saw a yellow-crested warbler over there at like the 100-yard line, you know? Wow. Well, back to the shuttle.
Yes to all that.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you know, I used to do runs.
3 Army people on here, so we're all for it.
You know what I hated? I had to work really hard to be good at running in the Army, and there was always this one asshole that would like be hungover and smoke cigarettes during the 2 mile and would run like a 13, and I'd be like, I hate you. I just absolutely hate you. But that's dead on. That's really true. Yeah.
I had a Sergeant First Class in Schoolhouse of the Chem Corps, Sergeant First Class at Jarco. He held the Army 10-mile record for years and used to, like, he was from Nigeria, I believe. He was African. And he used to, it was like haunting. He was very tall and he would just make fun of you relentlessly if you fell out of any run. And so I hate running. I see it in the comments, like, I hate running. If you ever see me running, you really need to run. Like, because I have decided whatever is in front of us, I cannot beat. So if I am running, you need to run with.
And you don't have to run fast. You just have to run faster than Katie.
And I have a knee replacement, so you're going to outrun me quick.
Talk to us about the Marines, Carl. Was that similar?
Unfortunately, yes, but not for all of us, right? Like I absolutely hate running. And there's a lot of Marines that despise running too. But there were a great majority of them who'd be like, yep, that was a warm-up. And I'm like, bruh, like that was 3 miles. Like that was not a warm-up. And what do you mean you're gonna go to the gym now? Because that's ridiculous. But yeah, we had those overachievers. Absolutely. I think every branch does.
Kudos to the Navy guy for the Navy impression where he actually put his face in the dirt. I mean, that was pretty. That was there for the art, man. He did it.
That was definitely dedication to
I
the
will
act.
say I mastered the art of running completely drunk and being able to throw up and not get throw up on myself or anybody around me. That was an army skill I did acquire.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
I've
sober
lost
now.
that skill.
Yeah, for everybody, like I'm sober completely now. But yeah, that was wild. Mhm.
I lost that skill when I got older and realized that I can't be drinking before PT.
So when I got out of the army, I never ran another fucking step again. I got a bike, and it was like I'm done.
Same. All right, so the next one was sent in to us by a viewer or a panelist that thinks he's a viewer 90% of the time. So I'm just gonna throw it up. And kudos to Tim for finding this one. I thought it was hilarious. Wait until the end before you lose your mind and laugh.
There's a time in every young man's life he has a touch of shame. He wants to be a fella, but he feels just like a dame. From Christopher to Stanley, we long to be more manly. Well, Uncle Pete has got a treat, and you'll be glad you came. Testosterone, it's the juice that makes you burly. Testosterone, you'll no longer feel so girly. Testosterone, with a smile so white and pearly. Watch your little guy salute, watch your rifle cock and shoot. Testosterone, it's a gift from God Almighty. Testosterone, filling up your tighty-whitey. Testosterone, it's a kick to feel so mighty. So stand and shout and whip it out. Testosterone. God, I love men.
I fucking hate him. That was so good. Dude, I mean, listen, the guy is asking for gender affirming care. It's wild. It's just wild. Gender affirming care is something Pete Hegseth supports. What can you say?
Katie's crying.
That was catchy. That was really catchy.
You know, I had to resist posting that on my socials because Carl insisted that he didn't want you to see it before. But
Yeah.
I thought the same thing. I thought, now this is something that you don't, it's got to be a surprise to get the full response.
I love that Katie still hasn't recovered yet.
I am like dying. This is on the Jimothy line of joy. This is so on par. Yeah, whoever created this deserves all the monies, all my monies. Mhm.
Yeah, that song's gonna be stuck in my head all night. That's,
It is. But I think it's, and Tim said it. The thing is funny as shit, but the like premise behind it is like so wild, right? Like, because that's a woman. Um, I don't know if I'd ever want to have my estrogen checked by the federal government and then forced to be like take estrogen, right? And we support trans vets, our trans brothers and sisters, and their HRT was taken away, and I just find it extremely wild. that we're providing gender affirming care to only men. It just, I don't know, but that is a funny video.
Can I throw something just real quick in there too? Just something because I got to drop something serious. Somebody is there's a lot of people concerned they're going to use this testing to try to out trans people too. So something to think about.
Oh shit! Are they going to try and out intersex people? Do you
Well,
think?
if you think about it, if you're doing these hormonal tests, right? It also there's indicators of other things, and so if anything else, this particular government and Pete Hegseth are not they don't really care about privacy. So they could be using these testing for other nefarious purposes. So again, I'm not an expert on these things. There are people out there that have said that is a worry that they have, that this could be used to out people for sure.
I didn't even think about that. Like that.
Me neither.
Wow. It's a good point.
Yeah, it's in another government maybe I wouldn't have that suspicion, but you never really know. So again, very very much so a something that I don't know if that's really going to happen, but we should always worry about what their true motivations really are. But I really think that the only person missing from that is Lindsey Graham, because Lindsey Graham would have loved that program. Rest in peace.
To be fair, the last time we tried to air a video of making fun of Lindsey Graham, we got cut off right after the video went on air across the streams. So, I mean, when we look,
Yeah.
looks like we lost Katie.
Yeah, I think we did lose Katie.
Let's see. Oh, her computer crashed. So while she's getting her computer up and running, I did want to address the documents one more time, because we reviewed them a little bit over that live watch party that we had. The documents all tell a very explicit story that shows that election tampering did not happen the way that Donald Trump wants to say that it happens, and in actuality, all of those documents refute his claims. There were some concerns about those documents containing viruses. However, I can tell you personally, on a personal level, I've done multiple scans and I continue to do them today. And those documents all have shown no indications of being corrupted with any type of Trojan horse or zero-day attack process. However, there was reporting that came out about it, and that reporting did get resolved as being false reporting because of the way some of the documents were written. It looked a little weird on the coding and showed a potential, but they are for now safe to use and read. But be careful and make sure that you have your antivirus up to date and you're checking that as best you can.
Do we have just speaking as somebody from cybersecurity, don't trust PDFs from questionable sources, as Ward mentions, but also, links are bad. They're just bad, and you're going to have trouble if you're not absolutely sure that link is secure to open. And yeah, you can put it in a sandbox and you can do all these other things, but just, the one thing cybersecurity and any kind of technology cannot do is take out the human element. And so you have to be the first defense. You have to think things through before you just click on something. And I got something from the woman who does my taxes, and it was just odd. And so I emailed her and I said, "Did you send me something?" And she said, "Oh, yeah. We're trying something new." I said, "Well, you probably need to let people know ahead of time, because it was a link to something that I had never seen before." And she just didn't think it through. So anyways.
And that's all I had for Fire for Effect. But now that Katie's back, we can roll into the calls to action and what's next. Katie, I'll let you go first.
Yes. So tomorrow in Ocilla, Georgia, there is going to be an action. We're co-sponsoring it, co-organizing partners on it. This is justice for Jesus Manuel Arnas Silva. He was the fourth individual murdered this week by ICE. It is a story of him being transported between Ocilla Detention Center, the Irwin Detention Center, and the Folkston, Georgia Detention Center, and he was murdered in transit. So if you can make the drive, if you are close, please come out there tomorrow. I went out there to do recon today, and it is literally in the middle of nowhere. The town of Ocilla is about 2 miles away, and they are extremely kind humans. And so that is my call to action. If you are in the area, please come out tomorrow to Ocilla, Georgia for this action.
And on that same note, over the last 2 decades, thousands, if not tens of thousands, of service members from the United States military have been deported because they do not hold citizenship here in the United States. That has increased, or the deportation of veterans without citizenship has been increasingly growing over the last 2 years, thanks to the Trump administration and their efforts to conduct mass deportations. If you served beside an American veteran a U.S. military veteran who does not have their passport, does not have their citizenship, we want you to send us a video and tell us about that individual. Tell us about who you served with and how they served, and tell us about why you think the fact that they might face deportation is wrong in your mind and in your eyes, and why we must absolutely get Congress to pass laws to ensure that those patriots who served overseas to defend our rights and freedoms get the same in return and expedite their process of gaining citizenship here in the United States. So if you could please pull out your phone, do a quick video. You don't have to make anything fancy. It doesn't have to be pretty. You can do it in your car, in a hotel room, in your room, as long as you're decent and not exposed in weird ways. Please videotape yourself and then send that video to media@5051vets.com, and we will get it up on our socials to help bring attention to this utterly despicable practice. And finally, our next episode on the Smoke Pit, we are going to be interviewing Chad Charland, who is a candidate for Florida House District 15. He will be on the show with us on Wednesday. If you have questions, all you got to do is go to 5051.com/ask, submit your question there, and we'll make sure to ask it on air, or come onto the live and ask it in the comments. We'll make sure that question gets there as well. Katie knows this individual, and Katie, do you have anything to add about him?
He's an independent, and that's one of the reasons I want to have him on, is because of his independent nature in Florida. Florida, this district right here is Angie Nixon's district, who is running for Senate in the state of Florida. So it is a large shoe to fill. So that is one of the reasons I want to have him on.
And that's it for our calls to action.
All right. So I guess all that's left tonight.
Wait.
Nope.
Wait. I want to just mention that our president received building industry, not that president, the real president, Katie Torback, received a building industry award and used that opportunity to advocate for immigrants who are being pursued, many in the construction trades who are being pursued by ICE and deported, and imprisoned and deported. And I think it's really important. I mean, I don't know when Katie sleeps, but the fact that she's holding down a full-time job and doing everything, she's driving all over Florida and Georgia through some deliverance type areas, yelling at people, which I keep telling them not to do. I just want to, what a superstar and what a dedicated American, and I just want to salute you.
Thank you, Tim. That means the world. Tonight I did win an award in my industry. Not sure how well the speech landed with the room, but I do think anybody that has any position of authority and you're in a room full of people, it is the moment to use it to get across a message. And the message I wanted to bring it to the construction industry is we don't build the buildings, they do. And so as we're sitting around drinking, patting each other on the back, getting awards, our workers have been deported. They're sitting in ICE facilities, and every day they are in fear coming to our job sites. And as leaders of industry, as project managers, superintendents, all the way down to our accountants, we all need to be aware of that, and we all need to call it out loudly, because without them, we are nothing. Immigrants built this country, they continue to build this country, and they take the hardest jobs. And for us to devalue it, especially in my industry, makes no sense. And I made that conscious decision today because I found out that the murder that happened in St. Augustine, which is local to me, it's about 23 minutes south, that gentleman was actually here on a tourist visa. He had only been in the country for 3 weeks and in the state of Florida for 3 fucking days before our government murdered him. And so at a time when we have the moments to speak out and use our authority, I encourage everybody to do it. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen with my professional career going forward, but it was a risk I was willing to take just to have my voice heard, because I am a woman in the industry, which is already rare enough. And so utilizing that space is always important. So thank you, Tim, for that. It means a lot. So the last thing that we're going to do tonight is the safety brief, which Tim has had me add some stuff to, which I did. For anybody watching that doesn't understand what a safety brief is, we do it in the military every Friday, close of business. And everything on the safety brief has happened, whether in our military career or in our group. And so it has been added. So we always start the same way. Do not beat your spouse, your child, or your pet. Eat an actual meal. Gas station snacks, nicotine, and caffeine are not nutrition. Drink water like you mean it. Half your bad mood is dehydration. And this heat will kill you. Get some sleep. Nothing good happens after 0200 except Waffle House and regret. Take all of your meds. You're not seeing if you still need them. You do. If your mind is getting dark, talk to somebody. Reach out to us. We all don't sleep well. Somebody will answer you through our socials. Isolation is where problems multiply. Call somebody and show up somewhere. If you're struggling, ask for help. It's not weakness. It's grown-up fucking behavior. Schedule your appointments you've been avoiding. And for our vice president, do your self-checks. Breast cancer doesn't care how busy you are. Early detection matters. And for the men, I found out on here that y'all also have to do checks. So make sure you do that shit. If something feels wrong, get it looked at. Walking it off has ruined enough people already. Stretch. We're not 22 anymore, no matter what your knees claim. Sunscreen is cheaper than dermatology. Do not fight wildlife, especially geese. Geese have tenure. Scooters are not transportation. If you travel in packs of veterans on scooters, one of you will inevitably almost get run over. While in DC, do participate in barter systems. The going rate is 1 bag of coffee grounds equals 1 marijuana plant and 1 watermelon plant. Okay. Emotional support potatoes are authorized and should be carried with dignity. Do not buy animals on the black market to make policy points. You will win the policy point, but you will own a penguin. Do not build a golden calf. Be mindful of tow hitches. Do not hand out crystals to the homeless. Any kind of crystals, apparently. Do not decide that you are Bob the Builder in your retirement. It takes years of skill to work in the sun. Carl. Do not breathe in the air in the northern states. As we heard tonight from Dr. Nila, it is very harmful to your health. So if you are out in the smog up there because of the Canadian wildfires, make sure you're wearing like an N95 or just a respirator, just get around, especially if you have respiratory issues. And don't yell at rednecks from your pickup truck when driving through rural Florida, especially if you're a single woman in the truck screaming yeehaw, fuck the law in city squares. You will become unsafe quickly and worry about getting yanked out of the truck in Klan country. I won't do it again. Make good decisions. If unable, make survivable decisions. If neither is possible, make legendary decisions with plausible deniability. And if you make a video of it, we will absolutely talk shit about you on this show. We did it in the last one where we talked shit about a Marine worse than we did MAGA. And the last thing we always close out with is our oath is not only to the Constitution, right? It is to the people of this country. So as we are going out across the nation doing actions, look to your left and your right. Protect the most vulnerable around you. That is our duty right now in this country. Civilians are scared. We are here to protect them. We know the way. We hope to see you on our next show. And thank you again for tuning in. Have a great night.